Canada also just slammed the brakes on immigration pretty hard. The Carney government just cut temporary resident admissions in half, froze permanent immigration for 3 years. Sorry, not just froze it, like that nobody's coming. And for the first time in modern history, Finance Canada is projecting negative population growth.
Sorry, negative population growth. We've been doing the show for long enough that I feel like we've talked about population growth going through the roof, and now we're talking about negative population growth. How is this even possible, especially after the last few years where we added what, like 3 million people?
Yeah, it was 3 million since 2021. The immigration boom that literally drove the entire economy, right? Housing, jobs, retail is now being reversed, and very quickly.
Okay, so let's start to talk about what this means for real estate investors, for the rental market, whether you are a renter or an owner of rental properties, and bigger picture, what this means for the Canadian economy.
Yeah, so that's exactly what we're going to get into in this section of the episode, with basically the biggest macro and policy pivot since the 1990s housing crash. And for people who want to partisanize this thing, this would be smaller than a Harper immigration program, smaller than what Poilievre proposed. So they're very serious about, and I think a lot of this is they're seeing what's happening in Europe and stuff like that and saying, yeah, okay, we don't want to end up with that mess. Let's try and get ahead of this a little bit. And there's things beyond just the budget like that we're going to talk about, because they're looking at like mass visa cancellations. There's like huge fraud allegations in CBC. And anyway, we'll get into it because this stuff's getting absolutely nuts. And I think everybody knew it was going to go there. And I think that this is obviously the right direction for policy to go, but it's very, very interesting to see how quick, like a snap of a finger, it's just completely changed.
Well, look, it only took a snap of a finger to let it all happen, right? So
yeah,
about time we snapped the other finger. And agreed, the writing has been on the wall for this for a while. So we're numbers guys here, Dan. Let's talk about the numbers. Walk me through them. What did the government actually announce?
So Mark Carney's first budget as prime minister basically admits that immigration got out of control. It is nice to see.
It's nice to hear it.
Yeah. Temporary student visas drop from 305,000 to about 150,000 next year. It is funny. I feel like he does have kind of a bit of a unique privilege as somebody who's coming in and he wasn't part of the government at all. I mean, he was there as an advisor, etc. But he has that luxury of being able to throw the past people under the bus without it, like without really saying anything about him. Anyway, so temporary student visas drops from 300,000 to about 150,000 next year. Permanent immigration stays capped at 380,000 until 2028.
Okay, so we have gone from record growth to now record slowdown. This is not how like charts are supposed to look usually, right? We don't need to see like massive ups and massive downs. That's not really the way that things are supposed to work, especially when we're talking about people and immigration, right?
For sure. I think it is going to go down as one of the most like wild things to happen in Canadian history. If you look at chart 17 in the budget, there's this brutal chart included in the budget. The population growth literally went vertical after 2020, and then it basically
like almost
collapses.
A straight line up, guys. Okay,
and then
like
a straight line down.
Yeah. And a straight line down, yeah.
And the Department of Finance literally expects zero or even negative population growth in the next 2 years.
Totally insane from my perspective. And honestly, politically, it's the first time that we've seen both sides agree.
It is interesting because, you know, I thought it was going to like, and I honestly do still feel like it had either party really taken a harder stance on immigration during the election, it would have actually been a more decisive victory for whoever that was. Like nobody was really proposing policy in that direction during the election. But I think most people blame that massive number, that massive increase for a lot of the problems that we're seeing in Canada. Unemployment, housing being oversubscribed, rents skyrocketing, inflation because there's too many people competing for too many products. There's so many different things. And both parties are now kind of saying the same message and agreeing on the same message, which is immigration is no longer sacred.
Yeah, and just like the legend Alanis Morissette once said, isn't it ironic? Because the Liberals used immigration as kind of their entire economic policy.
Yeah, I guess it is true. Like the GDP growth for the past several years has basically been as a result of population growth. I can't remember who put that out, but basically there was a recent chart. It was excellent about how it really had been responsible for pushing GDP up at the expense of GDP per capita, which is where everyone really feels like we're in a recession for the last couple of years. Yet, even though technically we're not, because the population was outgrowing GDP so substantially.
Right. Fake recession. Felt
Yeah,
like a real one.
yeah.
Okay, Dan, let's talk about why, right? Why this all happened. Why now? Why kill this golden goose of immigration that was the main economic driver to skirt this recession kind of thing?
I think the simple answer is that the system broke. Between 2018 and 2024, temporary residents doubled from 3.3% to, I think we peaked at like 7.5%, which housing supply obviously couldn't keep up. Healthcare still can't keep up. Schools, all other infrastructure, like everything was just getting oversubscribed and crushed. And it made Canada feel really messed up.
Yeah, and this is all over the budget. They literally said that the system became less functional and harder to manage.
Yeah, basically, it's almost a complete admission of failure in the budget. And the CBC dropped this story after this, which really, to me, tells a good story of how bad things got. Ottawa now wants mass cancellation powers to deal with fraud, especially from India and Bangladesh.
That's where the rejection rate hit. What, it's like 74% for Indian students, I believe.
Yeah, the government is now rejecting 74% of students from India, which is the highest ever recorded and the highest out of any country in the world. And this is from the media in India talking about this. And so you've got this perfect storm where you've got visa fraud, housing crisis taking place, you're getting political backlash. And I mean, I think it's also probably worth mentioning provinces especially too, right?
Oh, yeah, we got to talk about old Dougie Ford here, right?
Ontario's private college boom definitely abused the foreign student loophole. Basically, they defunded colleges and then allowed them to take in a ton of students. And this brought in tens of thousands of students with no housing transit, no real programs. The province basically turned immigration into a profit center, a degree printing mill. And this is where people were just like, guys, this has to stop.
Yeah, I mean, look, we covered this stuff numerous times in the show where we saw colleges increase their student bodies by hundreds, if not, I believe some of them were in the thousands of percent. I think there was
thousands of percent.
There was one of them that was like infinite, right?
Basically they had zero.
Yeah. So, hey, I just made a college. If you got into the fake college and fake diploma game for a couple of years, you did really well. And look, the Ford government cashed in on tuition, and now Carney's got to go and clean up that mess. And man, what a mess it is.
Yeah, and all of this fed into this housing crisis narrative, right? So when voters started connecting immigration to affordability, that was it. When they realized that the governments weren't really capable of doing a lot on housing, increasing the number of houses, as much as we talk about it in every budget and every policy, everyone's saying how many houses they're going to build. Nobody has ever hit those targets. So what do people start looking at? Well, they start looking at the demand curve. And once voters made that connection, the political math changed overnight.
What does this actually mean for the market?
First, obviously, is demand. Rental demand is going to fall, especially in student-heavy cities like Waterloo, London, parts of the GTA. We'll see higher vacancies in purpose-built rentals near campuses for sure.
Yeah, you're right. And look, that's already happening. We've been hearing it from clients. We've been hearing it from friends in the industry. It's already happening. And Urban Nation just reported that more rental projects are now being delayed and some are even being canceled.
Exactly. And if population growth flatlines, developers are going to be holding inventory. So the pre-con boom doesn't work if your growth engine stops.
So housing prices could actually fall again, even more. And that could happen even without those potential rate hikes on the table for next year.
Yeah, or at least stay flat for a while. The 24-25 correction might not bounce back quickly. Sentiment will obviously take years to recover.